Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have an epic escalating revenge story for you. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Ancient Educator 76. I get banned from campus. The revenge might take a while, but it gets sweeter and sweeter as time goes on. Long but worth it. This happened in the early 2010s. Let's say it's in a very hot state, Christmas weather is in the low 80s. I'll give you some background information to explain my state of being at the time and just how effed up what happened actually was. After my wife, my high school sweetheart and mother of two boys, had passed away suddenly at age 22 at the hands of arrogant physicians, a long and totally different story that isn't MC. During my working through college, I found myself in a situation where it was advantageous for me to get my master's degree in education before entering the field of education. I was given the Board of Regents scholarship that was a 4-year scholarship, and I transferred from a community college, so it paid through my master's degree. It is known in the field of education, especially in a desert climate for some reason, that getting your master's before working as a teacher is very risky. Because if you work for a public school, they have to pay you for your master's, and most places won't pay the extra money for someone with no actual teaching experience. Education is like gold in the education system. At least they value themselves. Anyway, I found it very difficult finding even an interview for a teaching position in a public school, let alone getting a job in one. I decided to sub for various districts to supplement the pay. I was hoping to somehow get an in by subbing for these schools' districts. Finding out what was so great about the hires they had, I found out nothing aside from them being a dime a dozen. This wasn't panning out. I did land a couple of teaching jobs that were private, literally private, teaching a prominent local desert hockey player's kids and friends for 1 year, or charter schools. Out of desperation and a true need for money, I doubled down on my applications for more schools that aren't public, like Catholic schools, Jesuit schools, I ain't picky, any charter school I can find. Enter sports is more important than education charter school, from here on referred to as Simitex. I got an interview for this place that was just being built, and they had this philosophy that sports and education go hand in hand. They fought hard to get as many fit and sports-related people as possible. Basically, if you didn't play at least high school sports, varsity, you had no chance at this interview. I mean, it was weird. It's like I was applying for a gym based on the interview questions. So, how many times a week do you think is a fair amount to work out? What is your philosophy on aerobic to anaerobic workout ratio? Peppered in with the standard, so what does a typical day in your classroom look like, for good measure? I played football in high school and football, basketball, and baseball in college, so I thought I had a shot. I talked up my favorite athletes and why I loved John Wooden so much, stuff like that. 90% of the interview was sports related. That should have been my first sign that this place wasn't great. But the director, she didn't like the term principal, seemed, however hippy-dippy, like a decent person. Oh, I couldn't have been more wrong. So anyway, my interview was in like May and school started in very early August. And the building wasn't even completed yet. All of the new hires, me being clearly the fattest of the bunch, save for one guy whose rotundity was only surpassed by his intellect, the academic of the campus and a leader, would report to the school and pick their classroom location as they would build and help them finish things up. And when they finish, we could bring our supplies. I don't know if it was the allure of being the first person to teach in a particular building or classroom or what, but all of a sudden, I was all in at Simitex, and in my mind made the decision to retire from there. The first of a couple of places I thought were going to be the one. Oh, I couldn't have been more naive. Once I decided to teach somewhere for life, I bring in my arsenal. Back in the early 2010s, the internet wasn't such a staple of teaching. We could teach using notebooks, whiteboards, and textbooks. Seriously, old school. That being said, my arsenal was the accumulation of all the books, notes, filing cabinets, 6 5-footers full of materials, supplies, and basically leftover junk from my previous teaching assignments, like Dibbles testers, mismatched and random manipulatives, you name it. Basically, a 6 foot by 6 foot by 12 foot concentrated cube of junk that wouldn't get more than $30 total at a yard sale. At the time, it was important to me for my craft, but to anyone else, virtually useless. So anyway, I've got the arsenal in the back closet of the room for use whenever, and I do occasionally. Over time, the arsenal grows somehow by another couple of feet as I continue to teach my middle schoolers. This teaching assignment was tough. There were about 6 kids in this class that individually warrant being worse than my worst student ever in any other place I've taught. Even worse than the kids, it's a very close race, is one particular mother. Oh, what a mother she was. She accused me of being racist when I called her precious boy out for his ridiculous in-class behavior. Not that this is a defense in any way, but I'll say it anyway at the risk of sounding like that dude. But I'm biracial, neither of which is the race of the mom or son, I presume. Anyway, I'm trying to say I'm genuinely not hating on this kid because of his race. He's not the only kid that has this race in the class, he's just the only one who jumps over desks and throws things at me when my back is turned. Not even turned 180 degrees, more like a quarter turn to get the whiteboard marker. This was tough because this lady was the lunch lady, who passed out lunch at the top of the hallway with her catering company. Evidently, I made the mistake of going to admin about the kid's behavior before I went to her. I really did call the available number given and send an email with no response. She absolutely hated me, yelled at me, and insulted me out loud when I walked by her, to the point I stayed in my classroom until she was off campus. This kept me cooped up in my classroom through lunch, so I couldn't bring a lunch that needed refrigeration. Whatever, peanut butter sandwiches it is and was. As time went on, this issue seemed to work itself out once the rest of the team realized what a butt-tart this kid truly was. You ever see a kid that you hate so much that you want to slap that goofy butt smile off their face? Okay, maybe I was harboring a bit of resentment towards him for ruining my lessons on a daily basis, but I really did give him a clean slate daily, and made every effort to show him positivity in the face of what could have been a rough situation. Anyway, we hit December and all the teachers, admin, everybody is in a good mood, excited about the break coming up. Christmas hits and we are invited to a 3-star restaurant, fancy, by admin. We say our goodbyes, I make sure that I say bye to everyone and say goodbye back. Enter winter break. I start planning for a trip we were taking up to Flagstaff with my family. As I'm entering the hotel of where we're staying, I see an email from Hippy Dippy from Cimitech. This is like noontime December 23rd. It was sent to me and one other person who wasn't BCC'd, but just CC'd so I could see. It says that I need to find employment elsewhere because your employment with us is terminated. It was such a lame way to say it. It was such a lame time to do it. Like Christmas Eve? You've got to be kidding me. My trip is now cancelled in spirit because now I've got to look for a job. Now I've got to contact them and find out what happened. I called her. She said that she doesn't owe me any more explanation. I asked her about picking up my personal belongings, like my 4,500 pounds of personal belongings. She says that, and I kid you not, she said it like this: "If I see anything worth salvaging, I'll have it shipped to you. Don't come back on campus." Are you friggin' kidding me? Enter the beginning of a revenge that escalates like a domino. More details about what stuff is in my classroom at this point. So all of these things I brought on campus, pre-copied worksheets, is there any other kind, in the thousands for math, science, ELA, social studies, random textbooks I've accumulated over time, a plethora of flotsam that was just for me, waiting in my classroom, the classroom Hippy Dippy never entered, and thusly not having any evidence as to my teaching prowess one way or another. So she had no idea just how much of my stuff was there. That's fine. I just waited and waited. So I tell my wife, "Look babe, she was so pissy and told me how illegal it was for her to not let me collect my personal affects. 99% of the stuff I have there, I really don't care about, never wanted to store at the house, and is well worth being someone else's problem. She saw where I was going with this and dreamed of keeping our garage as neat as it currently is. So I decided I would never go back, ever. I know this is a revenge that really was just what my boss said to do, but I know for a fact that had she seen what my classroom looked like, she would demand I remove everything. At first, I was surprised to not hear from Hippy Dippy. I just kept enjoying my vacation. I landed a job pretty much instantly, 2 days after I get the poorly timed email. I presumed that by Boxing Day or the day after, I'd get an urgent call from her saying, "Hey, come get your piles of crap." This is a call that presumably would never happen. I just stopped thinking about it. New Year's comes and goes. Here we are sitting at the Sunday before they go back to school, which now is, after actually signing contracts we discussed on break, also the Sunday before I start at my new school, and here comes the call. Tempering Revenge Phase 1. Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones? Had a baddish connection. Me as cordial and pleasant as ever. Hey Hippy Dippy, how was the holiday season? I had an amazing break, much needed. So glad I do what I do for a live. Hippy Dippy interrupted. How rude. You need to get all of this crap out of here right now. I don't care if you have to pay to rent a U-Haul. We have class starting tomorrow. What time are you going to get here? Yeah, sorry. We tried that route. I believe you said that if you saw anything worth salvaging, you'd ship it or something. You also said I'm not allowed. No. You're not doing this to me. You came in on winter break and dumped a bunch of crap here. I will send you the bill to have this shipped. Now I'm doing the interrupting. Yeah, good luck with that. That's a bill that will not be paid. I wanted to add a nice little, "Oh no, thank you, but good luck in all of your future endeavors," but I never had the chance to end a conversation so sweetly. I'm pretty sure I heard a click right about the time I said not. She was obviously calling from campus, not just because of the click that accompanies hanging up a school phone. I found out later from a colleague, 3 of the teachers that worked with me at Simi left there within a year or two and couldn't wait to tell me how things went down, that it went down something like this. Revenge Phase 2. Through the grapevine, the teachers found out the D-bag move that Hippy Dippy did, firing 2 teachers over winter break by email, no call, nada. This polarized the remaining crew into 2 distinct categories. Those who thought this was a totally crappy move and lost all respect for Hippy Dippy, and those who didn't like me or the other person who got canned either, or just didn't care because the job market was bleak at the time. There was a subcategory of people who didn't necessarily like us, but still thought it was a crappy move. Who's to say what percent was what, but I'd like to say that not all the remaining teachers I didn't converse with didn't hate me. Revenge Phase 3. The fallout. Evidently, Hippy Dippy was shopping around for new teachers in November. None of my colleagues I still talk to swear they had no idea that it was to replace me. The other teacher maybe, but they had given them a tour of campus, but not into my classroom. Not until the newly hired teacher came into the class and brought her arsenal of items, all on one dolly and that's it, and asked about moving some of the teacher's old supplies, did they realize just how bad it was. Hippy Dippy came in on that Sunday, which she rarely does from what I've heard, and saw the monstrosity that was taking up every available nook and cranny of space in the classroom. She was livid about all the stuff she had to deal with. The situation caused the new hire to back out of the deal. She heard what happened and how it happened and decided she didn't want to be a part of it, presumably. Revenge Phase 4. 2 teachers left the week after, both colleagues I keep in touch with on Jinxton, and when they didn't get subs, they didn't have a subsystem, they just split classes, and the other classrooms grew in student number by 30%, 4 more teachers left, an entire grade level, and 1 more from the grade below. Phase 5. They canceled school for 2 days originally, and then it turned out to be a whole week until they got new hires in classrooms. It was a hot mess, with teachers leaving either because of the crap way that they fired 2 people over the holiday, or by making the rest of the teachers take in 10 more students apiece, or by making the rest of my grade level move my heavy and junky crap out of there. 2 flat out refused to handle the personal possessions of someone else. And supposedly, she insinuated that something bad happened to me to one of the other teachers, knowing it was a full lie. Phase 6, the charter school never recovered from that point, and the building was bought out a couple of years ago by a charter school system that's all over the state. OP added an edit down below. It says, edit, a few have asked how I could get a job by email 2 days later on Christmas Day. Though that totally could happen, it wasn't Christmas Day that I was emailed and offered the new job, but 2 days after I read the email, which was later after Christmas but before New Year's. I wanted to make note that this email was sent on December 23rd. The timing of this was a total dick move, especially when considering that back at this time, checking email over breaks was not expected or reasonable. Here I am getting daily emails about my retirement, and reminiscing over these stories is truly fun. I love how you weren't given any notice and all of a sudden you're fired for reasons they don't even tell you. I'm guessing Lunch Lady and Hippy Dippy were really good friends, cause that's gotta be what happened in this case. Lunch Lady talked to Hippy Dippy and convinced Hippy Dippy to get rid of you. I think getting out of there was probably one of the better things that could happen to you though, because it seemed like it was turning into a bit of a toxic workplace. And from what we know of your stories over the past 2 years, I think you went on to do better things. Are you going to land on my house, helicopter? Holy crap, my seat's vibrating. Wow.